One before the flood came, I took my family hiking. To help my 400-pound brother lose weight, the whole family accompanied him to a famous natural scenic area for a hike. Seeing the threatening clouds overhead, I feared the impending rain would trigger flash floods and suggested we return home. But my brother accused me of ruining his fun and refused to let me in the car. Later, when the flood surrounded me, they were long gone, safely driving to my new house that I had just paid for in full. When I opened my eyes again and saw my family wanting to hike in the rain, I quickly offered, "I've got some work to do in the city. I'll come back in the evening to pick you all up." The whole family was on board since they didn't like having me around too much anyway. My brother outright said, "Get lost, you useless waste. Do we really need to climb now, with the skies so dark?" My dad peered out the car window, feeling uneasy. "We've come over 50 miles, let's just do it. I got these tickets on discount." My mom pinched my dad lightly, indicating he shouldn't upset my brother. "Dad, Mom, I want to climb the mountain. You promised me that once I climb it, you'd buy me that $800 phone." My 10-year-old brother kicked open the car door and dashed to the ticket window, without a care that he made my 2-month-old new car dirty. The sound of him kicking the car woke me up from a nap in the back. Seeing the three of them, rage I had never felt surfaced. The last time I saw them alive was right here. Dying once only to find myself reborn at this moment was surreal. With light rain falling, they excitedly got out of the car. My mom was about to ask me to help with my brother's gear, but was furious when she turned and saw me still in the car, staring blankly outside. Storming over, she yelled, "Why are you just sitting there? Get out and help, are you dead?" I got out, but didn't reach for her bags. Instead, I looked at my dad, who always pretended to be loving, but sided with my brother in the end. Back then, he comforted me quietly after fights with my mom about my brother, buying me little drinks to cheer me up. But on that fateful day, when my brother proposed leaving me behind, he just got in and drove off, telling me it was my punishment unless I signed over my new house to my brother. "Dad, hand over the car keys." I extended my hand. I bought this car, but out of kindness let my dad take the keys since I got it, without saying anything. "It's time to change that." "What? Don't want me driving your car?" His smile was superficial, stalling before giving me the keys. He hoped I'd say he could drive anytime, so he could claim them again. He had his own car, but preferred mine and was thinking about selling his, leaving me to take the bus. "No, it's just work stuff. I need to head to the city. About 9 hours, climb and cable lift down. I'll come back to pick you all up after that." "Waste of space, you're not hiking with us." My brother was overjoyed, despising me for often limiting his phone time. Without me, he could play games on Dad's phone while hiking. The derogatory waste of space turned heads from nearby hikers. My family was used to it. I once protested to my parents about it, but they said, "Kids talk without thinking. Be the bigger person." So I tolerated, never agreeing internally. Hearing it now, I saw him as a born demon. I wanted to slap him, but we live in a law-abiding society. Holding my anger, I nodded, not going. "I might need to work overtime." My mom immediately returned my ticket on her phone, grinning. "Good thing you hadn't entered yet. We saved over $300. She didn't care if my body could handle more work after staying up till 2 last night. To her, I was just a money source, her personal ATM. Working all day brought her joy because more money came home. With me out, my dad became the bag holder. My mom packed food fearing expensive mountain prices, noodles, thermal cups, apples, but none for me. Her belief was that skinny girls find partners easier. Meanwhile, my dieting brother got pizza, chicken legs, high-fat treats. Insane logic. My dad was bent under the weight. Too heavy. Mom promised an extra $20 pocket change for carrying it, and he reluctantly agreed. My overweight brother, the 400-pounder, struggled even walking. Curious how he'd manage the mountain. As they moved to the ticket gate, I got back in the car and drove off. 2 minutes in, my mom called, "Stop, turn back. Water here's pricey. You have some in the car, but I've already left. To hurry back. If you don't come, we're not going up. We'll be late, and it'll be all your fault." My mom started going on and on. I had no choice but to pull over, checking my phone for the time. Still early, 5 hours left before the flash flood hits at 2 p.m. To keep my mom happy and heading up the mountain, I let them mess around for a few more minutes. She doesn't get that dragging up extra water bottles would only slow them down and tire them out more. She's really shooting herself in the foot. When I got back to the parking lot at the scenic area, my mom got greedy. She wanted me to take that half box of bottled water to the ticket gate for my dad, said it was too heavy. I had checked before. They sell water at the top for only $3 a bottle. They're going out of their way to struggle. Not that I plan on mentioning it. No point in being helpful when it won't be appreciated. As I handed over the water at the gate, I noticed someone behind us. A young lady live streaming outdoors. She wore a super short skirt, looking all vibrant and lively. I didn't want to see someone so young in danger. So as we passed, I quietly mentioned, "Hey, it might rain soon. Heavy too. Your gear might get wet. You might wanna head back." "No worries, my gear's waterproof, and I'm really fit," she said, then smiled, introducing herself as Suki, a streamer on some platform, suggesting I check out her streams. Since she wasn't taking the hint, I didn't push it further and quickly headed back to my car toward the city. From past life memories, I recall in about 30 minutes, the drizzle would suddenly pour down. Driving then would be a nightmare. Even with wipers on full blast it would be hard to see. And there's a section of rural road up ahead, under construction, just a single lane through mud. Easy to get stuck. I really needed to speed through it. The area's low, prone to flooding. Last time, deserted all around. I tried walking to the highway for a ride. I ended up blocked by a landslide due to the downpour. Trapped on this low land until swept away by a sudden torrent from the creek. Never to be seen again. After I died, my folks and brother probably wouldn't bother reporting me missing. They've been eyeing my fully paid new home, wanting to move in. As I traveled this rural stretch where I once walked step by step, even though the road seemed smooth, I drove cautiously, sweating from the nerves and feeling all mixed up inside. For a moment, seated in the car, it felt like I was back in that moment, stranded as they left me, panic rising as raindrops grew heavier, soaking through my sneakers. The rain picked up, winds chilling me through my summer-appropriate vest and mosquito-proof pants, sticking to me. I shivered uncontrollably. The fear of being swallowed by the flash flood seemed to circle around me. At last, pushing through intense tension, I got past that rural road onto a broader highway. A drive my dad made in 24 minutes took nearly 40 for me. Once stopping by the highway, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The fear lifted a little. Heavy rain fell again as back then, large drops smacking the windshield, the view outside blurry and surreal. With the highway being wider and less winding, driving was easier. Despite today being the weekend, fewer cars were out as people avoided the inevitable storm. In an hour, I was back in the city, smooth sailing, except for my parents' calls about 20 minutes earlier. But to beat the heavier rain, I ignored the phone, letting it ring on. I only stopped after reaching the city's toll gate, with call after call left unanswered and messages piled on from my family, loaded with anger. "Jean, now you're something, not answering me on purpose. Get your butt over here and bring us clothes. We're soaked waiting halfway up the mountain. If you keep ignoring this, I'll have you give up this month's pay. Are you dead?" No reply at all. Those were from my mom. "Hey, your brother wants a Coke, bring one, and get me a raincoat, too. This umbrella isn't helping. Hurry up, my umbrella's gone with the wind. We're huddled under a gazebo, freezing." Guilt-tripping me, those were from Dad. Seeing them miserable would be sweet revenge. I called them on video chat. The call connected, showing my mom, Dad, and Daniel soaking wet, shivering already just like before. And there, in the gazebo with them, the stubborn streamer girl, also looking quite pitiful. "Jean, stop standing there. You better get clothes now and get back here," Mom yelled through the screen, surrounded by pounding rain and trees swaying in the wind. If they had any sense, they'd start hiking down now instead of waiting for me. "I'm not even at work yet. I'll grab things once I finish up what I have to do." "No way, now. Your brother's freezing. You have no heart. He's your brother, you know." My mom kept guilt-tripping us. "He's not feeling well. You can call an ambulance. I'm not a doctor. It'll take me at least 4 hours to get to the mountain from downtown. Are you sure you want to wait for me in the pavilion for that long? What are they thinking? Are their brains made of mush?" My parents exchanged glances, realizing they couldn't wait 4 hours in the pavilion. It was way too cold. Let's head back down the mountain. It'll take another 3 hours to reach the top, and the rain's too heavy, my dad said, already backing out. What about my game console? I'm down for heading back, but you gotta buy me a game console. My brother, huffing and puffing, had just climbed halfway up. He was worried Mom wouldn't buy him the console he wanted if we gave up now. He only cared about that, yelling loudly and drawing attention from tourists taking shelter from the rain. No way. I heard the temple here is super spiritual. I want to get a talisman for my son's studies. I heard they really work, but you have to go in person. The more obstacles on the way, the more effective, my mom insisted. My brother's terrible grades were a sore spot for her. I hate studying. I don't want to go up the mountain, said my brother. Learning it was for education made him even less interested. He threw himself on the ground, rolling around like a kid. He's 10, but has tantrums like a toddler. A trick that's always worked on my image-conscious parents. I was starting to worry again. Would my mom really go back down for her precious son, and then go back to her usual behavior, using me and taking my stuff? Would I never escape their clutches? No way. We're here. If you agree to keep going, besides the game console, I'll get you a legit collectible under $300, Mom promised, trying to placate him. Deal, Mom, I promise I'll go. My brother stopped whining at the mention of the expensive collectible. He got up and dragged my parents to keep moving toward the mountain top, completely ignoring the rain, wanting to earn his reward as quickly as possible. Alright. I saw in a guidebook that there's a mountain lodge half an hour ahead. We can shelter there, take a hot shower, and then continue. My mom persuaded him happily. There wasn't an actual lodge. It was just something she made up to keep him going. Unknowing tourists overheard, believed her local accent, and decided to continue up the mountain, too. Just before the scene cut off, I saw the trees shaking violently in the downpour behind them, rain crashing onto the road and forest like bullets. I even faintly heard thunder. Going up the mountain now, that's just asking for trouble. In town, the rain was pouring too, like a hole had opened in the sky, water splashing everywhere. The streets were flooding over 5 centimeters deep and still rising. I knew I had to prep for the coming city flood. I drove to a big supermarket. Maybe because of the storm, it wasn't too crowded. I bought a big bottle of vegetable oil, a 20-pound bag of rice, 5 pounds of noodles, 5 pounds of various veggies, 5 pounds of beef, 5 pounds of pork, 2 of each chicken, duck, and fish, plenty of seasoning, and most importantly, my favorite snacks. It would last me a week. I didn't plan on staying at my parents' place. Instead, after parking my car in a higher level indoor spot, I had all the stuff delivered to my new home. It was my first time staying there since renovating. Everything inside was brand new. Most importantly, I never told my parents my door code to prevent them from taking over. Even if they somehow made it back from the scenic area, they wouldn't get in to confront me. Outside, the storm raged, the temperature dropped. Even indoors, I felt a chill. My parents and brother, soaked and still on the mountain, must be freezing. After a hot shower, I made myself a bowl of veggie and meat noodles, finally warming up. Outside, water had become mini rivers, relentlessly pouring, flooding the compound garage. In our neighborhood group chat, the security was urging everyone to move their cars to safe spots. The water was up to pedestrians' knees. Even if you managed to drive out of the garage, you'd probably stall out and get stuck. Some wanted to try their luck, while others just gave up. I was curious how my family was faring. I searched for Suki, a popular live streamer, on a video platform. She was still streaming despite the heavy rain. I tuned in and found her hiding in a tiny bathroom stall, proving her equipment was indeed waterproof. Outside, it was storming, but her gear was perfectly fine. People in the chat were worried about her safety. Suki told them there was no lodge halfway up, just this simple bathroom, where she was hiding in stall 1, and a boy in stall 2. That boy had to be my brother. I could hear my parents banging on the stall door, demanding she give it up to them. Suki wasn't having it. If your wife hadn't mentioned a lodge, I'd be down by now. Also, I was here first, so I'm not moving for y'all. Ignoring my parents' pounding, Suki told her viewers her situation. She was stuck halfway up, 2 hours away from the cable car area. Besides my family, there was a fully geared up tourist continuing up the mountain. Everyone else had decided to head back down. For my brother, with his chubby body, got stuck in that tiny stall. Damp, cold, tired, scared of the wild, the whole situation just broke him down. He burst out crying and started arguing with Mom. "It's all your fault. You insisted we hike up the mountain, and look where we are now. I'm so cold. I want to go home. Hang in there, son. Once the rain lets up, we'll make it to the visitor center. It'll be better then." Mom tried to reassure him gently. She felt that after all that effort to get halfway up the mountain, they should push on. Worst case, they could stay a night at the visitor center if it had a temporary shelter. My brother was exhausted and refused to move. Mom, getting frustrated, started scolding him. "I'm doing this for you. If you got better grades, would I have come this far? If you weren't so overweight, would I have to climb a mountain for you to lose weight?" Dad was fed up with the arguing. He just said, "You guys have at it," and started trekking up the mountain by himself. Once Dad left, it wasn't long before I heard on video that Mom was pulling my brother away. Suki peeked through a crack in the door, telling her followers, "Looks like they're heading up the mountain too. I'm not going. I'm soaked, but at least it's dry and relatively warm here. I'll take off my wet clothes to dry myself off. I've got a thermal blanket that'll keep me warm for a bit. Once the rain eases, I'll head down." She then turned off her live stream. Getting caught in heavy rain in the mountains is tricky because of hypothermia. Luckily, she was a professional outdoor blogger and had brought a thermal blanket. I bet she'd have the best chance of surviving among them all. With nothing to do that afternoon, I turned on the TV. The local news was reporting on the massive rainstorm. Experts said the rain could last through the night and into the next morning. Such weather might trigger landslides and mud flows, urging everyone to stay away from the mountains. The city was already flooding pretty bad. Most streets were submerged, with firefighters using boats to evacuate people. Drone footage showed the whole city practically underwater. Looking out from upstairs, I saw several cars stalled and stuck on roads that now looked like rivers. People had already abandoned them, and the water was nearly up to the windows. It's a disaster we wouldn't see again for years. It felt like the apocalypse was looming, and the rain didn't stop. The water level kept rising. Even if my parents and brother survived, getting back to the city would be a massive challenge. 2 p.m. rolled around. That's when flash floods broke out the last time. The massive flood raced down with debris. Pedestrians had no chance, let alone those hiking. This was the big test for my family. If they stuck to the timeline, they'd reach the visitor center in about an hour. But tired and possibly hypothermic, they might not have the strength to carry on now. I tried calling Dad. His phone was dead, probably water damage. Tried Mom too, no answer. Who knows if she was too busy, or just couldn't pick up. Minutes dragged by as I paced at home. By 3:30 p.m., I still hadn't heard anything from them. I called the staff at the park, asking if they'd seen my parents at the visitor center. If they'd kept heading up, they should have arrived by now. A staff member said, "Only one young visitor in a raincoat came up in the last hour. They collapsed from exhaustion and are receiving care. We haven't seen anyone else." I asked, "How's the situation outside?" The staff member replied with a shaky voice, "The rain's too heavy. There's a flash flood and water's rushing fast. We can't go down to search. Their situation doesn't look good. When the rain eases, we'll try to search along the path." I also reported Suki's location to them. The staff said they'd keep an eye on the others' movement and safety, but I sensed that they didn't hold much hope for survival. If a young and fit person was struggling, my parents, in their 50s, and my 200-pound brother, didn't stand much chance. I waited the entire afternoon into the night, but no call came from the park. The rain didn't let up until around 4 a.m. the next morning. I tossed and turned, worrying about where my family was. Bad news felt like it was always lurking at these times. Around 6 a.m., I finally heard from the park staff. "We found Mary about half an hour from the visitor center. She's in bad shape, coughing, and freezing." That meant Mom was alive. She was one tough cookie. But where were Dad and my brother? According to your mother, she didn't see your father along the way. The flood water was intense, probably sweeping him off the cliffside. "We'll keep searching. As for your brother, Daniel," she said, "they split up after arguing. She kept going up the mountain while he collapsed from exhaustion. The search team found his body just now. So, when push came to shove, Mom left her worn-out son and survived alone. The staff apologized and promised to get Mom down for medical care soon. They'd keep my brother's body in a freezer until things calmed down and they could return him to us. I had no objections to their plan. 5 since I was stuck at home surrounded by floodwaters and couldn't leave. I gave the whole situation over to Auntie, who works at the hospital. I asked her to sign all the necessary papers once my mom got to the hospital. Thankfully, my mom has enough money in her bank account, so I didn't have to worry about medical bills. Meanwhile, one of the staff from the scenic area added me on social media, just to keep me updated about what was going on. They didn't want me worrying too much. We've changed Mary's clothes to something clean and warm, and she's had a bottle of nutrients. Her face has gotten a bit better, but she's still coughing badly. We've frozen Daniel's body, and Mary has developed a fever. The plan is to get her down the mountain on the earliest cable car. But we had a landslide on the local roads last night, and they are still blocked. So, the officials decided to call for a helicopter to take Mary to the hospital urgently. Don't worry about the cost. The scenic area will cover it all. Mary's on the way to the city hospital by helicopter now, and I'm accompanying her as someone responsible for the incident. We reached the hospital, and the doctors think it might be aspiration pneumonia. Mary has been taken to the ER. Then Auntie called. She said my mom's in a critical condition. They think her lungs are full of mud and sand, so they're gonna need to do a tracheotomy to help her breathe. Auntie signed the consent forms. I told her I understood and thanked her. Auntie was crying over the phone. My poor nephew. Your mom practically doomed him. Why climb a mountain on a rainy day? It's good you didn't go, or you'd be done for too. And I was shaken by that thought too. If not for some unexpected business pulling me back to the city, I might not have survived. The whole rescue took a solid 2 hours. The doctors managed to clear out the muck and debris from my mom's lungs, but warned that the bacteria from the flash flood might cause serious infections. They're keeping her under observation. I was home feeling helpless and went back online to check out Suki's account. From family comments on her page, it turns out she spent the night in a public bathroom. She had plenty of supplies, made herself a hot pot breakfast there, and safely got down the mountain. She's resting now and plans to stream again later to let everyone know she's alright. A real survivor, no doubt fitting for an outdoor influencer. My dad was found the next day around noon. A drone spotted his body in a mountain ditch. By then, it was mostly bones and part of a face, probably gnawed by wild animals after he died. Only when the roads are clear will they transport his remains and my brothers back to the city funeral home. Auntie said when Mom heard the news, she fainted on her hospital bed. But Auntie had no sympathy. She's just pretending. When my brother was found, his backpack was stuffed with stuff, water bottles, a thermos, even her makeup. If she hadn't made him carry so much, maybe he'd still be here. Auntie used to have a decent relationship with my mom, but not anymore. When Mom finally got transferred to a regular ward, Auntie didn't greet her warmly. Instead, she slapped her hard. It's all your fault. You killed my brother. Why didn't you die instead? I didn't know there'd be a flash flood. I wasn't intentional. Surely, it was the park's fault, my mom insisted. When reporters came to the hospital to interview her, she went off, blaming the park, saying they should have never let them climb knowing about the rain. She demanded $8 million in compensation. Her accusations quickly spread online. The park got so much backlash, they had shut down comments. But Suki stepped in during a live stream defending the park, saying, "The staff warned us non-stop about the incoming storm. I went up against advice to photograph the cloudy sky, and I knew how to handle myself. It was that lady who forced her family up there. The park even called, warning us flash floods were likely and to come down. It was our call to stay. When I sought shelter, they said to stay put in the bathroom. When you think about it, the fault's with my mom. If she hadn't insisted on the hike, my dad and brother might still be alive." With Suki standing up for the park, and my own take, that it was a family matter without the park's liability, they became more confident against my mom's demands. $8 million was wishful thinking. Public opinion flipped, supporting both the park and Suki. My mom got roasted online. Auntie even made it a point to read those harsh comments to her after work visits, leaving her coughing madly. On the third day after their accident, Floodwaters around my place finally started to recede, and everyone in the neighborhood chat group was celebrating. Heading out, mud and trash from the flood littered the streets. Park staff later told me when they discovered my dad and brother, their bodies were caked in leaves and mud. When I got to the hospital, the first thing I did was see my mom's doctor. The doctor said her condition had improved a bit, but she wasn't getting better quickly because of her poor mood. Plus, the sand that had built up in her lungs before had done permanent damage. Even after her fever breaks, she'll keep having violent coughs until the end of her life. It'll never get better, and it might even cause a bunch of other complications. From now on, she's pretty much lost the ability to work and is just waiting for the end. When I saw her again, she was on the hospital bed, coughing like her lungs were going to pop out. She was out of breath and looked miserable. As soon as she saw me, she started yelling, "You heartless thing. You haven't visited for days. Are you dead or something?" I just smiled and said, "Mom, let's cut all ties. You can take me to court for not supporting you. Whatever they decide, I'll pay that sum every month. Besides that, nothing you do is my problem. It's time I stepped out of this swamp of a family." My mom stared at me in disbelief. "What? You're abandoning me? After all I did to raise you?" I sneered and said, "You didn't raise a kid. You made a punching bag and a free maid. I've paid back any kindness by all the effort I've put in over the years. I'm 30, not 3. I have my own life, job, and friends. I can live without that so-called family bond." Then she asked, "What about your dad and brother's bodies? What are you gonna do with them?" I shrugged and said, "They were your dearest husband and son, so you should take care of it. Don't worry. I won't fight you over their inheritance. I just hope you die holding that money, lonely." She looked shocked that I hated her so much and couldn't speak for a while. After that day, I didn't see her for a long time, until the court hearing, when we saw each other from a distance in the courtroom. She still looked really pale. Auntie said after she got down from the mountain, her health just went downhill. She's been coughing up blood and constantly saying she's cold. Probably has a month or 2 left. By the time the judgment came through, I'd only need to pay for a couple of months, because she'd be gone. The judge ruled that I pay $800 a month. My mom didn't like that, thinking it was too easy on me. When the hearing ended, it seemed like she wanted to talk to me, but I didn't stop and walked right past her. Whatever happens to her, alive or not, we won't see each other again. As for my dad and brother's bodies, my mom couldn't handle it because of her health, so Auntie took care of it. Auntie had their bodies cremated and buried them in the cemetery, making 2 little graves. One time while having dinner during New Year, Auntie mentioned my mom. She said my mom died a month and a half after the judgment became effective. My mom said she regretted not strangling me at birth and called me ungrateful. I laughed, saying, if I had the choice, I wouldn't have wanted to be her daughter anyway. She left everything in her will to my greedy uncle's family, not Auntie, even though uncle's family didn't visit her once when she was in the hospital. Some people are just naturally biased. No matter how well you treat them, it's useless. They take pride in sticking their warm hearts to cold ones. But that doesn't concern me anymore. I'm just living my life now. All those storms are in the past. The end.